experience fuel to heal the soul with real talk and deep dives into hidden mental and emotional valleys and steep peaks of what ails and hinders us from thriving far and beyond surviving. This is a show to awaken the sleeping giants and hidden phenomenal in all of us. R&R. Welcome. You've entered the space to release and rediscover. R&R with Topazz is an experience fuel to heal the soul with real talk and deep dives into hidden mental and emotional valleys and steep peaks of what ails and hinders us from thriving far and beyond surviving. This is a show to awaken the sleeping giants and hidden phenomenal in all of us. R&R. Welcome. Entered the space to release and rediscover. R&R with Topazz is an experience fuel to heal the soul with real talk and deep dives into hidden mental and emotional valleys and steep peaks of what ails and hinders us from thriving far and beyond surviving. This is a show to awaken the sleeping giants and hidden phenomenal in all of us. R&R. Welcome. Good evening. Good evening. How's everybody doing out there? Welcome to R&R with Topazz. This is a weekly show brought to you on CTNmedia, where we are changing the narrative. This is a station for you, by you. That's right. It is a station Black owned and operated to ensure that our community gets truth, gets real news, gets relevant news, gets information and support and conversation, as well as resources and opportunity for networking right here at CTNmedia. This is R&R with Topazz, comes on Monday nights at 7 p.m. And of course, I am Topazz. I am your host on R&R. I am a psychotherapist here in Denver, Colorado. However, I do have clients from coast to coast. So if you are interested in services, please reach out. Tonight, we are going to be talking about mental health. That's right. We're dealing with that issue of mental health. Our mental and emotional wellness is valuable. It matters. We need to be doing a better job of taking care of our mental mindset, our mindset. This is Monday Matters, by the way. Monday Mind Matters. That's part of why R&R happens to pop on Mondays, because it's the Monday Mind Matters processing, going through all of those things that kind of shift us and shake us, that get all bogged down in our thought processes. We need to sometimes release and rediscover. That's right, release and rediscover right here on R&R. So this evening, I've dedicated this show to mental health because it is National Mental Health Awareness Month. Every year in May is dedicated to addressing and bringing awareness to mental health. And of course, in our community, that is so needed because it's only been, let there be light. In our community, there has only been in the past really 5 years or so where we are really giving attention, more attention, a broader attention to the reality that there's benefit to getting the mental and emotional support. We're coming against those stigmas that have kept us bound and attached to so many levels of dysfunction that were really unnecessary. And all we needed to do was to acknowledge that we're struggling in those areas, that those areas are real. Anything from depression, anxiety, fear, dealing with irrational fears, low self-esteem, insecurities, narcissism, abuse, the varying degrees of abuse, which most of those I have covered over this last series, or between the two last series, and we'll probably go into deeper dives as we continue in the coming seasons. But we've looked at sexual abuse, domestic violence, but I want to do more with regard to the sexual abuse component eventually at some point when it fits. But I want to look at physical abuse as well, because there are varying degrees of physical abuse and mental health. The aspect of how this type of abuse really affects our mental health, how we function on a day-to-day basis, trauma in general. And we as a people have had to endure so much trauma for centuries, coming over into this country by force, being forced to acquiesce and acclimate to the colonial slavery, guidelines and confinement, the oppression. All of that has placed us at a disadvantage compared to every other culture, really. Not to say that there haven't been other ethnicities or races that have been subject to slavery, but there is no other group that has been up against what Black folks in America have been up against, period. There is no comparison. And so subsequently, we have suffered in very unique ways as a result of that traumatic slave syndrome. Some refer to it as the post-traumatic slave disorder versus syndrome. And there is a difference between the disorder and the syndrome. The syndrome carries over, and the disorder is more in the context of the moment, of the present, of the here and now, or the context in which it's being spoken. And it is something, when it's a disorder, it's something that can be addressed head on. The syndrome lingers, it lingers, and we are definitely suffering from both, because there are circumstances that we experience or subject to that are current and present that cause current disorders or influence current disorders, but they're tied into the syndrome, the lingering aspects of what post-traumatic slave, the impact of post-traumatic slave syndrome has done to us as a culture. So that in and of itself supports the need for mental and emotional support, regardless of which route you decide to take through a psychotherapist. People use varying degrees of practices and alternatives that are out there to really work through whatever the challenges you may be experiencing as a result of current trauma or past trauma. There are options out there. And so you want to do your research and see what approach, what type of therapist, what style, what modalities are going to work best to suit you in your current condition and with the dynamics that you battle with, so that you can ensure that you're getting the maximum benefit from your investment in the journey of doing the work. There is work required. Because you have a therapist, it does not mean that there is a magic solution. A lot of people get into therapy and they look for this quick fix. After they've been in therapy for a couple of months, and it's like, well, dang, nothing's happening. I'm not seeing the change. It's no different than working out. It takes time to build the muscle, to build the tone, to lose the weight, to get that body that you're really desiring. It takes time to get your mind healed, to work through trauma. A lot of times you're coming into therapy, going into counseling, going into whatever form of support that you choose, and you're coming in with years of and layers of baggage and the experiences, whether it's trauma or maybe it's not as severe as trauma, but oftentimes it's years and layers of that toxicity, and you want the therapist to perform magic. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. And if I figure out a way for a quick fix, I'll let you know. But I'm not into quick fixes. I'm into long-term healing, something that's going to work for you for years to come. Does that mean that you necessarily have to work with me for years? No. But what our goal is what you learn in your work with me is something that should carry you for years to come. You're probably going to need to come back for checkups, for maintenance, just like you do anything else. Just because you lose that 60 pounds in your work to lose weight does not mean that it stays off without intentional work and lifestyle change to keep it that way. You still got to go to the gym. You still have to watch what you eat, or eventually you find yourself right back where you started. And it's not really that different when it comes to your mental and emotional wellness. It's an investment that takes time. So prepare yourself for that, for whomever it is that you choose to work with. There are many. I'm excited about the fact that there are so many Black psychologists and therapists, and even a growing number of psychiatrists. I think that we're up to 5 or 6 Black psychiatrists in the state of Colorado. 3 of those, I believe, are here in Denver. One of them is one that I work with very closely for some of the work that I do, Dr. Ann Garrett. I love her. She's amazing. But there are lots, I won't say lots, but there are a much broader and more diverse group of Black professional mental health providers out there who do good work right here in Denver, Colorado. And I'm sure wherever you may be watching from. So with that said, I really want to encourage you to make your calls. We're doing something a little bit different tonight. I've opened up phone lines. Call 303-801-8052 if you have a question about your own mental health, if you'd like support, if there's something that you'd like to address. Maybe it has to do with you, it has to do with your marriage, your relationship, your children, or a family member or someone else that you're concerned about. What are you dealing with that you would really like to get some answers to? If I can't answer your question this evening, I will definitely take your information and get back with you with some follow-up, or point you in the right direction with someone who can support you, who can help. There is no one professional who covers the gamut. I am not a therapist that works with substance abuse, for example. I don't do substance abuse, drugs and alcohol. I don't do crisis intervention. I no longer work with children. Every once in a while, I'll work with an adolescent, but I don't do severe psychiatric disorders anymore. When I worked for Aurora Mental Health, I had a caseload that was nothing but severe psychiatric disorders, and that was enough for me. But there are people out there who specialize in specific areas. So if you call in and it's not something that I feel comfortable answering or addressing, I will definitely point you in the right direction of someone who can support you, who can answer that question for you. So don't be shy. If you're out there watching, dial the number, ask your questions. There is no stupid question. There is no silly question. Call in and get support. I know that you've seen shows or listened to the radio, because more often that's what happens on the radio, where people will call in on the radio and speak to therapists and get support, get some questions answered, work through their relationship issues. And so we're going to try that tonight on R&R. So if you're comfortable talking about your issue over the air, then call in and let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. You can remain anonymous if you prefer. Again, you may be calling for a friend, but take advantage of this opportunity to get your questions answered. There is so much happening right now that impacts mental health, so many losses in particular, a lot of people dealing with grief and loss, and working through that grief issue. That may be something that you have questions about. How do I work through this? How do I get over and past this? I had a client in my office earlier, and we were dealing with forgiveness. And his whole thing was, how do I let go of this? How do I do that? He just felt like he couldn't. It's something that he's been holding on to for several years. He's a young person, so I won't say forever, but he's 20 years old, and he's still dealing with some childhood issues, and it's really taking a toll on his day-to-day functioning because he hasn't been able to release. And so we're working on that release issue. So if there's anyone out there who is struggling with letting go of the past, letting go of your past pain, it begins with, first of all, taking a look at how that thing is really affecting you, I challenge you to ask yourself the question, how am I benefiting? What is the benefit to me to continue to hold on to this issue? How is that helping me? And I really challenge you to come up with, let's see if you can, if you have three. My guess is you can't. You won't even have three points that you can make as to how it's benefiting you to continue to hold on to all of that anger, that bitterness, the hatred, the desire to get that person back. But what you will do, if you're honest and completely transparent about it, and you start to list out how it's affecting you, how it's working against you, you will definitely, most likely, have a really long list of issues that will make it evident to you how this thing is wearing you down. It's causing physical reactions. It's causing mood. It's affecting your mood. It's affecting your attitude. It affects how you sleep, how you eat. A lot of times people wonder, they're struggling with, why can't I get this weight off? What's going on with this weight? Most of the time, when you're struggling with a weight issue, it has to do with something emotional. Unless you've got a medical condition that is making it difficult to lose the weight, because we know that that's real. Sometimes there are medical issues, but if it's not something related to a medical condition, 9 times out of 10, it's an emotional, it's something attached to an emotional, I don't want to call it a disorder. I want to be careful about using that word because that word really gets overused, but it's an emotional pain. It's an angst. It's a wound that you're harboring. And sometimes maybe it's been there for so long that you don't even recognize it anymore. It's become solidified and buried deep down into your subconscious. And when I work with people to really pull up and get down to the root of the issue, it is attached to something that if you start to work through that and process it and release it, really let it go, then you can begin to rediscover your new self, that part of you that has been hidden under all the weight, all of the self-medication that you've been doing, medicating yourself, feeding yourself, validating yourself, and even layering the true self with the food and the subsequent weight that comes along with the food. So that is a problem that often gets minimized as it relates to a mental disorder. Overeating can fit under a DSM diagnosis specific to an eating disorder. When we get to the point to where our weight starts to compromise our health, that's a problem. Even though there's a lot of propaganda out there against fat shaming and all of that, which is good because nobody should be fat shaming. But what we don't want to do is encouraging people to stay at a weight that jeopardizes their health. If your blood pressure is good and you're not at risk of diabetes, your heart is still functioning at the capacity that it should be, your agility is good, you can exercise and you've got good endurance, then you're probably fine, regardless of what the charts may say, because sometimes those charts can be pretty scary. And as far as what it says your ideal weight is. So you want to look at those variables, just kind of balance that out. How are you functioning? How are you sleeping? How are you breathing? What's your endurance like? Are you having any physical symptoms, swelling, things like that? that are directly related to your weight. Then, of course, there is the opposite side with regard to an eating disorder, where people are constantly so preoccupied with their weight that they are that they're not eating, or they're forcing themselves to to regurgitate to the food. And and now we're dealing with a whole different issue as it relates to how something that is embedded in the psyche that is influencing someone's eating habits. So all of those things are related to mental and emotional wellness. Our mental health influences our everyday life. It influences how we respond to people, how we treat people. It influences our mood, our attitude. It influences how we function in relationships, how we function at work, and just with people in general. Are we making healthy choices? Are we doing things that really jeopardize ourselves or place other people at risk? Those are some questions that you want to ask yourself if you're wondering, where am I? Am I really balanced? So we want to look tonight at mental, emotional, and spiritual wellness. And so again, I want to encourage you to call in, take advantage of this opportunity to call in and ask your questions. There are no stupid questions, and this is not a setup to embarrass you by any means, but it is an opportunity to support you. At how many other people out there have the same exact question that you do. Well, I'm excited this evening because we do have a guest that's going to be joining us shortly. And he is really, as far as I'm concerned, and many in the community, I don't know if he himself considers himself to be a guru, but he is certainly respected in that way, with his knowledge of natural and organic alternatives to managing your physical well-being. It really helps with you. It helps with your spiritual balance so that you can focus. But people would be surprised at how what we put in our bodies can affect us mentally and emotionally. So I was intentional in reaching out to this guest because I really want to bring you a different perspective about what we put in our bodies and how that affects our mental and emotional wellness. I really encourage my clients to seek organic alternatives before looking at pharmaceuticals. And even for my clients who come to me with prescriptions, they're already taking antidepressants, mood stabilizers, etc. I'm working with them to wean them off of that medication so that by the time they finish their work with me, they are either at a significantly lower dosage or they are completely weaned off of that medication. But it doesn't mean that they still don't need some support. So there are organic alternatives that can support you in ways that are much healthier with significantly less side effects than some of those pharmaceuticals, all that medication out there. And you don't have to be concerned about becoming addicted to these drugs, or to the supplements. They're healthy, and if anything, the side effects are going to be beneficial. They're going to benefit you. So again, this is R&R with Topazz on the CTNmedia network, where we are changing the narrative. And so that right there is part of changing the narrative, looking at alternative organic supplements and organic ways to manage your mental health versus going to the doctor and grabbing a quick fix through a prescription that could be very dangerous and addictive to you. And call in, even as I'm talking to my guests, you can still call in 303-801-8052, and this is R&R with Topazz. And so we are going to begin a conversation with none other than Montague Connolly. Hello, sir. How are you?
Alafia, peace and love. How are you doing?
Peace and love to you too, sir. How are you this evening?
I'm blessed. I'm blessed. I'm in a good place. I was able to get outside today and do a little bit of gardening, and that's always a peaceful thing for me. And I think as you talk about mental health and things that help with that, I mean, gardening is one of the best ways to do it. We forget that we're not like these aliens that are separate from our environment, and that there are very, I don't know if people saw the movie Avatar, where they were connecting to those trees and the animals and things of that nature. But it's very important for us to realize that, this, we are from this earth,
Yeah.
and there's aspects of us that really need to be firmly rooted in earth. And some of us don't touch the ground without any shoes on. Some of us don't touch dirt. We have this whole like thing that, oh, dirt is dirty, when dirt is actually like one of the foundations for life. It carries the soil, it creates, you can build soil in it. And it's very good for the nervous system to be in tune and in touch with the mycelia. There's a lot of life in soil.
Okay, let me halt you right there, my brother. Talk about mycelia. What is mycelia?
We're talking about the fungi, the fungus that's within the ground. It's like the nervous system of the soil, and actually trees. What they do is they're able to talk to each other through the roots using this mycelial network. That's what connects these trees. That they've done these experiments where they found out that when they cut trees on one side of a jungle, it will kill trees on the other side of the jungle. They've done experiments where they found that trees were living that were a stump because their parents, they were parenting other small trees that were feeding it through this mycelial network. So it's a way that, that the forest floor, or just, floors that are living, communicate and help the plants communicate with each other.
Wow, 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 wow. Now that's some deep knowledge you just dropped there, my brother. So right there, again, another element of changing the narrative. I love what you said about the earth, really putting our hands and getting into the earth. That's how I look at it versus dirt. I look at it as the earth.
Yeah.
And when I had this humongous backyard for 16 years, one of the things because I had never been a yard person. I grew up with some brothers who took care of all that, my dad, and then I lived in a condo for a while. And then when I got my first home, we had this huge backyard. And for the first couple of years that I lived there, my mom came up and actually did all the yard work, and I would sit there and keep her company and watch her. But eventually I had to get out there myself. And I tell you what, that's where I really learned about flowers and just really got into it. But I loved working in my yard and using my hands, digging in the earth. And before I started doing that, I had a fear of worms. I was so scared of worms, but had to work past that. Somebody's asking you, can you spell that word?
Mycelial. So that's MYCELIAL. And you can learn more about that. There's a book, I believe it's called The Secret Life of Trees. There's another movie about it. Is it called Intelligent Trees? I can't remember, but if you Google Intelligent Trees, it should pop up. It's just talking about how we have this sort of kind of view that trees are just living wood, and when in actuality they have habits where they're protecting each other, and they're responding to all kind of things that we thought only humans respond to. So it's a really good film.
So there's something to what happens with the trees when I think about the Lord of the Rings and
Right.
and that whole piece related to the trees. But again, the outdoors in general, there's something about what nature, how it feeds us, and how there's healing in being outdoors in the nature.
Well, there's a reason that the bees are attracted to these flowers. We think that, the bees just go in there for pollen. No, that the flowers are colored in a way that feeds the. All right, here's some. But the bees.
I'm gonna stop you for just a second because
No
I
problem.
do have a caller calling in.
No problem.
So let's see who we have here. Good evening.
Hey, good evening.
Good evening. And who am I speaking to?
This is Kelly.
Kelly. Hi, Kelly. Can you all hear Kelly out there?
Oh, can you hear me?
Can you hear him?
I can hear him.
Okay, great. So then I'm going to assume our audience can hear. And so, Kelly, thank you for calling in, and share with me, with our audience, why you decided to call in, and let's talk from there.
Okay. Well, yeah, just I know you guys are talking about the mental health and those type of just wellness with all those things going on. Especially now, and I know I've had experience of getting with you, meeting with you, and having my wife as well. Just talk to you about those type of things, and so just for just to kind of really hear the conversation, and then put a little bit of my output and my the things that I've kind of dealt with and battled with. So yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, Kelly. Kelly is a client of mine, and I didn't want to say that without you saying that.
Yeah.
So, what made you decide to address the issues that you felt like were hindering your mental health?
Just to be a healthier me. Understanding that it's very important to work on yourself, and mental health is an important thing, important part of that, so that you can live a healthier lifestyle, have better clarity, and especially, like I said, with the things that are going on now, I think it's more important than ever, especially as a African American, to really get your mental health in check, because there's just a lot of factors that for years have been going on, but I think have really been brought to the forefront these most recent years. So yeah, I just think it's just highly important. And so that was part of the reason, as well as I'm newlywed, so I wanted to make sure that I'm doing everything that I can possible to make sure I'm being the head of my family and pushing them in the right direction, and so that they won't have any struggles that I'm having to deal with or having to go through. So just all about being able to take care of myself and my family, and being able to get through the times nowadays.
So what I hear you saying, Kelly, is, first of all, I really appreciate you having the courage to call in as a man, as a Black man, because most of our Black men have an issue with even acknowledging that they need support and that there's benefit in getting support in whatever form that looks like. So I want to give you some, accolades for that. And I hear you saying that you wanted to make sure that you were in a good place for your family so that you could be a good husband and be a good father. You also just had a new baby. Congratulations on that. And is your wife with you?
She's actually with the baby's godmom.
Okay.
So they're all together. So
okay.
That freed me up a little bit.
Okay. Well, if you can share one benefit that really sticks out for you in your mind that you've gotten through your work through therapy, and then I'm going to ask Montague if he can offer anything to you as it relates to just helping you to support your anxiety, because at one time that was a real struggle for you. So we're going to come back to Montague with that question. But can you just kind of share what the primary thing is that sticks out in your mind right now that has benefited you by investing in your mental health?
Wow, there's actually a few things. I would say one thing right now. I guess the being able to communicate, being able to, gosh, I'm trying to think of a way to say this. Being able to express myself in that arena where I can be transparent and being able to express my feelings to my wife, to you, even down to my kids, where I can really have the grip of things.
Okay. And has it also helped you with your relationship with your mother?
Yeah. My mother's wealthy. With the just kind of relationships altogether. I know there was at a time where being closed off at times, or not really just kind of keeping to myself and not being able to really express feelings or thoughts.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're breaking up on me just a little bit, Kelly. Breaking up just a little bit. So, Montague, what would you offer Kelly as it relates to anxiety? Are there any herbs or supplements that you would recommend?
Absolutely, absolutely. First, let me start by saying that we are multidimensional beings. And so we got to cover all our bases. There's no herb that's going to just substitute a pill, because that's not how we work from a holistic perspective, right? We want to make sure all the things are covered and that the herb that we choose is supported through lifestyle. I think one of the big misconceptions that we've kind of been raised with since we were kids is that there's this magic doctor, right? And we can live whatever way we want to, as abstract, as disconnected as we want to. But as soon as we get sick, we go to that magic doctor and he's going to give us a pill and we're going to be right back to doing what we were doing before. But that never cures the core. And one thing that everybody can do right away is to, first of all, manage their hydration levels. Anxiety can stem a lot from dehydration, magnesium deficiency, and also another type of dehydration that's not really talked about, which is oil dehydration. A lot of people that are dealing with like the really cheap Crisco's, the dollar oils, people like that also have higher risks for anxiety, because the nerves function way better off of high quality oils. There's something that there's a part of the nerve cell called the myelin sheath, and it has to be oiled to fire correctly. And so high quality oils like grapeseed oil, 100% pure olive oil, all these kind of things will also help with that process. But of course, I have a high love for like organic teas and certain things called tinctures as well for supporting. And one of those that I think anybody can get into, because one thing people need that I don't think we have a lot of is a protocol. Like there has to be a set protocol for anxiety, depression, and these things. So that we're not just running directly to a pill, right? Like there's levels to it. Like where do you go to even get these herbs? Like a lot of people don't know. They're going to Walgreens and getting a bottle of echinacea or something. Those don't work. You know what I mean? That's not going to work. What we need to do is we need to invest in French presses, things that we can use to get the medicine directly from the leaves. And one of the best tools for that is a French press, also known as a coffee press. You put your leaves in there, and it strains it for you. But oat straw is one that anybody can work with. And there's levels to herbal medicine. But I think people will be much healthier if they have a protocol where they say, okay, I have the anxiety thing. Okay, it's worse than it should be. I'm going to try this first because I know how to go to the apothecary, get my herbs, or call my herbalist. They'll say, try these herbs out. And if that doesn't work, go to the herbalist. You know what I mean? Go to the herbalist or the holistic healer and get a herbal consultation, look at your whole life. And if that doesn't work, then go to the Western way or do them together, But I feel like when we have this big leap, that's where we end up accidentally getting something surgically removed, you know, when it was something simple.
Wow, thank you for saying that. And so, can we get Montague's information up on the screen too? Now, you're the apothecarist, or are you the holistic healer? How are people going to identify you who are not familiar with what you do and what you offer?
Yes, I'm my title is community herbalist. That's what I go by. Although I use a lot of very spiritual practices in my work as well. But it's definitely plant based, you know, but also based also in just helping you to connect to earth, connect to the sun, you know, really connect to your purpose in life. You know, those are the primary focuses. But yeah, community herbalist, that's the root.
Okay, can you put your information in the chat there, Montague, so that we can get that up on the screen? So Kelly, one of the things that I heard him saying that is a direct plus for you being the chef that you are has to do with what you use to prepare your meals. So hopefully you heard something that you can begin to integrate into what you're using when you need oil for your foods. Are you currently using olive oil, or 100% olive oil?
I'm always 100% virgin olive oil person.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. Well, Montague's information will be up on the screen in a little while if you want to take a look at that. And one of the things that I can say about Mr. Tatum, Kelly, who's on the line here, is that he is one of those clients that came to me on antidepressants, on medication, who is no longer relying on those medications.
Powerful.
So I just want to acknowledge that. And how do you feel you're functioning now without any of those additives?
Oh, it's great. I mean, I think, now that I've had to, and I've switched my diet and getting back to really trying to work out, thank goodness Corona is, kind of dying down. It's a real thing, but it's dying down to a place where I can start having more consistency when it comes to working out. Along with cooking, all natural stuff, and just learning more about, taking in the right things. It's definitely been, just energy-wise and health-wise. I mean, there's tons of benefits. It's been great.
Great. Well, we've certainly seen a change in your mood being stabilized, and just like you said, less fatigue and higher energy, which then has made you more available to really function and be the father and the husband that you desire to be, especially since you got a little brand new baby over there. You need that energy.
That's not going to get any slower. So I need to get more and more of that energy, because I got to, grass is starting to get green and she's going to start being able to walk. So I need to be after the run.
Wow. Well, thanks for calling in, Kelly. Grab Mr. Connolly's phone number off the screen if you feel like you want to get in touch with him to get more information.
Definitely. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Have a good night.
All right. You as well.
Bye-bye. All right. So we were talking about before the call came in. I'm not sure if you remember where your thought was at that time.
Well, what I believe I was saying is that there's a reason why the bees are attracted to certain flowers. And a lot of the flowers that the bees seem to be attracted to are also nervines. And a nervine is a type of plant that has an affinity for the nervous system. So we think that the bee is just going up to these colorful flowers because it's just instinct. But no, the flower had to be smart enough to say, hey, I'm going to be this color to attract this animal, so that I can reproduce. But also the same thing, we love flowers as well. We're giving flowers at weddings, we're giving flowers on dates and things like that. Why is that? And how can we tap into that deeper? Herbalism gives you a way to tap into those medicines deeper. There's medicine in those flowers. That's the thing. And a lot of these medicines, all these plants, they have constituents that actually can strengthen nerves or relax nerves or just sort of stimulate nerves, depending on what the person needs, so it can get a lot more complex because there's at least, I can think of 20 nervous system herbs that all do different things right off the top of my head. And so when it gets to a certain level, it's cool to talk to an herbalist because what they can do is put together a specific formula based off of your personal individual constitution. There's this myth in the popular world that, oh, if you need to go to sleep, use valerian. If you if you have inflammation, use turmeric. But it's much more complex than that because all inflammation isn't the same. There's inflammations that are caused by heat. There's inflammations that are caused by dampness and toxicity. There's inflammations that are caused by coldness in certain areas of the body. And so when you have these various types of inflammation, there's not just one herb for one thing. And that's why we have herbal consultations. That's why we have herbalists. It's so that you can get a specific, formula catered to you. That does not mean, though, that you have to start with the herbalist. You might have a couple little jars in your kitchen, you know what I'm saying? And try there. But it's all about having that protocol. Okay, I tried all my stuff. Now let me go to this person. Oh, that doesn't work. Now let me go to this person, having the jumps. And there's so many reasons, like I know people, for example, who have had anxiety because of a virus. And the virus ended, but when the virus ended, it caused a chronic fatigue syndrome, and their body never rebooted from the virus. So when they come to me, there's a very strong remedy for that called Echinacea 3 that I like to use. But it's Echinacea, and then I add rhodiola. But what it does is it jumpstarts the body past what the virus had done to it to knock it below a certain point. And then there's energy and vitality again. But then there's other folks that are just depressed, just straight up depressed, and they don't know where it's coming from. Then there's herbs like skullcap and eleuthero and schizandra and ashwagandha. So we have all these different herbs to choose from. But through herbalism, you kind of learn that there's different groups, and so so my main point is just that I want to dispel the myth that, oh, you just go, oh, just try this for that. It's a lot more complex.
And I'm glad you said that because I'm guilty of been thinking that if you just try this, then this will work, because you even mentioned the turmeric and the inflammation, because I have inflammation in my hip. And it sometimes gets really painful. And so through some of the reading and research that I've been doing, turmeric comes up all the time. And so, I've gone over and I've spoken to holistic practitioners who recommend turmeric. But what I'm hearing, which makes perfect sense to me because it fits with the overall premise in which I operate, that it is a holistic approach. So why wouldn't it be with even supplements and organic herbs that you're going to bring into the healing experience, that you have to look at the whole picture. And so that one piece all by itself is not necessarily going to correct the problem.
Absolutely. If your inflammation's coming from an allergic reaction, I'm not going to go grab turmeric. Because it's an allergic reaction. I'm gonna get something that has antihistaminic properties, to it, or tell you to stop drinking milk, or whatever your body's reacting to. Inflammation can pop up in any part of the body. A lot of people think, oh, allergies is when I sneeze. No, an allergy can manifest in any part of the body as a type of inflammation, but also, turmeric is very drying. What if you already have a very dry constitution? Do I want to dry you out more? No. What if it's due to stagnation in the body and we just want to get the circulation moving, then I'm going to give you cinnamon. I'm going to give you cayenne. I'm going to give you things that are going to stimulate circulation of the blood. And all these things reduce inflammation. Inflammation is not a disease. Inflammation is a symptom of an underlying core issue. And that has to be tackled. Now, if you try turmeric and it worked, then, you keep using it. But that's why you have specialists, because if the turmeric doesn't work, you can try something else.
Exactly. And I need to try something else because. But what I will say is that I have Someone says, Mad Capper says you should allow 3 to 6 months for herbs to work. And that makes sense as
Yeah.
well.
Let me,
That fits with what I was saying in the beginning, that to expect whomever you're going to see, whatever their specialty is, to expect that quick fix
right.
is not going to work. That's
Yeah.
not an option. We have to be patient. We have to be invested. We have to be disciplined and committed to the process. But I wanted to go back to what you're saying as it relates to using all of these, these options, these alternatives, and how they fit with mental health. Because, and you alluded already to what happens with anxiety and how anxiety can affect the body.
Yes.
And if we can heal some of these areas in the body, it's going to automatically begin to influence mood and energy and fatigue, which a lot of times is directly connected, like you were saying earlier, to depression and other kinds of side effects that affect our mental and emotional wellness. Even our immune system, when our immune system is not functioning properly, it will begin to drain us and then can leave us lethargic and not being able to really respond and be emotionally available the way that we need to be. And we just keep going and pressing through in spite of that, and it just continues to drain us even more.
Yeah, I mean, in the slave days, they used to diagnose a slave or an enslaved African as being ill only if he couldn't work. So if you could work, you were healthy. And we've carried all of that to today. We think just because we can go to work, come home, watch Netflix, we're healthy. you know, a lot of times, I would say maybe 90% of the time, if you're getting sick, you were already sick. You were just teetering so close. We have a culture where we're like, you got me sick, but we don't take personal accountability to why did that person get you sick? If you have no immune system, if your immune system's bottomed out because your whole entire body is cold on the inside, and what I mean by cold is not necessarily freezing, although that can be a symptom of it. I mean just no activity, cold, desolate, everything's depressed internally. And if that's the case, you're going to catch whatever's flying around so fast, and so it's important for us to know how we can be ill before we actually show symptoms, that our culture calls illness. And that's a very important point. But I like how you brought up the nervous system, because the nervous system flows all throughout the body. So you can be having stomach aches, and that can be your nervous system. It can be a nervous disorder based in anxiety. Anxiety, stress from the external world. It's things that you see on TV, things that you're looking up on Facebook, fears, things like that can become physical manifestations through this nervous system that also kicks off. It's in charge of your hormones. It's in charge of like how different parts of the body communicate to each other. So what happens? We get a stomach ache and we say, hey, doc, give me something to take away this stomach ache. And so maybe he gives you some kind of painkiller or something for constipation, when the true kink in your gut was caused through anxiety the whole time. And if you could find a way to alleviate the anxiety, because we're supposed to have a certain level of stress, that's life. But when the stress becomes too much and we're not processing right, it becomes an anxiety and can cause all these ailments. So don't be fooled, folks that are listening. You might be having an ailment somewhere because of from a nervous foundation. And so until we get the anxiety corrected, nothing else will. You have to understand, even the gut picks up serotonin. It picks up what's the other one? Melatonin. Everything the brain picks up, the stomach picks up as well. The gut, it's called the enteric nervous system. That's why people say think with your gut. Like, you really can think with your gut. That's another brain. It has enough. It's comparable to the brain. That's how much nervous system activity is going on in the gut. So also realizing, when you were talking about diet, how diet can directly affect the brain. As a matter of fact, a lot of folks who are taking antidepressants and things like that have a lot of gut issues. because the way the medicines work is they're often trying to kind of create a detour to where most of the serotonin and the happy chemicals are going to the brain and not being wasted in the receptors in the gut. You know, so it's very important that to know that diet's connected to anxiety, sleep, how much sun you're getting, yoga, you know, because we need to stretch our bodies. A lot of us are just sitting down all day, not realizing that, you know, the body needs to be stretched and bent so that the lymphatic system can circulate. You know, the lymphatic system, for those of you that don't know, is that some people call it the white blood, but it's a place where where parts of your immune system live. You know, it's a place, it's like a back alley where a lot of toxins and diseases get pushed to be basically obliterated by white blood cells, but it doesn't have a pump. So toxicity, the toxicity can get stuck in parts of your body if you're not moving it and bending it and stretching it. So just like a football team, a quarterback cannot do it by itself. You know, that's why when I talk about the herbs cannot do it by itself. When people say, hey, Montague, I need an herb to help me sleep, I say, okay, what are your habits before you go to sleep? You know, and some people say, oh, I just, you know, I get the munchies at around 10, you know, so I eat some hot Cheetos, I put on Game of Thrones. And then, you know, I cut out the lights and I'm like, that's all bad right there. There's no herb.
Absolutely. And just like you're saying that herbs can't work by themselves, you know, and you're saying that we can't work alone and isolated. Right. Even I, as the therapist, can't fix the problem by myself.
Right.
I'm looking for other folks out there who specialize in particular areas who can help to support the wellness process. We work together collectively. So I'm going to be calling on you often, my brother, to help to bring some balance to the wellness process. As I'm focusing on the mind, you know, I'm going to have some people who are coming to you so that they can get the support that they need to help to bring the full rotation into process, to transition from this unhealthy, dysfunctional place that they've been in, because you're so absolutely right. Everything is connected. As I was listening to you talk about even the nerves, I thought about the reflexology and how reflexology works and working just in the feet and the nerves that are in the feet and what can be released by really tapping into those right nerves and the organs that are connected to the nerves in the feet. You know, it's not just something, it's not just a one-stop shop. Usually you may start in one area, and after you've done XYZ for a year, you may need to transition and now begin another aspect of the journey, and then another aspect. And then you begin to bring all of those things together, because as I mentioned earlier, it's about maintenance. And just like you can't get a tune-up once for the lifetime of your car, you have to continue to get that tune-up. You have to continue to get that mind and body and spiritual tune-up. There's a reason why you go to church or
Absolutely.
however it is you worship every week. There's
Absolutely.
a reason why you work out consistently, why you drink water, why we have to continue to hydrate. You talked about that hydration. And I think that that's one of the probably the most negligent areas for us as particularly as a culture. We have not really been conditioned to drink water the way that we should. And one time I heard you speaking, and I heard you say something about the supplements can't really do what they need to do without the water to push them through the body. And when you said that, I'm like, oh my gosh, what an aha moment. And that in and of itself was something that pushed me to start drinking more water.
Hey.
Absolutely. It's like I'm taking all of these vitamins and supplements, but not really drinking the water so that they can work.
That's right. You know, we have to realize that water is probably the most important thing we got going in us, because once again, that's the communication, that's the transportation of hormones, constituents in the blood, all the nutrients, things dissolving into water. So you're absolutely right. And, you know, also also the oils, because, the oils, there's certain things that are fat soluble as well that need the oils to be able to, you're made out of fat. That's what cholesterol is, and that cholesterol, is so important in the body as well to cushion certain things, and make sure you have certain fuels, because, the body can convert fat into energy, can convert the carbohydrates and the proteins, all that into energy and back and forth to however it needs to. So absolutely though, but the water is so important. And I like what one of your guests said earlier. I like what the guest said earlier about how some herbs might take about 6 months to, a little bit longer to work. And that's an important thing. Like you were saying about going to church every week or whatever, it's about creating a routine, right? And it's like not expecting, getting out of the mythology of that magic doctor.
Right.
I'm going to live however I want, and then ding, I'm going to be saved and go back to being
Right.
however I want. Tell me what in real life you can work against for years and years and then expect an immediate, change, that's like, look like a garden. If you haven't put any energy into that dirt, you know what I mean, for years and years, it's going to take a while to build that soil up.
That's right.
You know
That's
what I
right.
mean?
I'm a witness. I'm
You
a
know what I'm
witness. 'Cause
saying?
I was out there in some really ugly dirt out there, that clay dirt in the Highlands Ranch area. And it took me a couple of years before I could get that soil healthy. I had to keep putting additives in the soil and bringing in healthy soil to mix into that dirt before my plants and my garden could actually grow healthy. We had a really good question up here a minute ago. We're just about out of time. I want to appreciate you for being with us, but I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question. I know that I am totally opposed to giving children medication, but as a therapist, and he as an herbalist, ever agree or disagree with giving young kids pharmaceuticals to assist their mental illness? For instance, a child ages 5 to 6 years old.
I would like to start by, saying that, of course, people are complex. There's a lot of different situations, right? But in my own experience, I've been able to really help even kids that young with herbalism. I think people underestimate the power of herbs and a good therapist. There's people think of, some people are like, why would I want herbs when I can just eat a salad, Montague? And I'm like, it's a completely different ballgame. It's about the constituents within the leaves or the roots that we're working with. Lettuce doesn't have any of the constituents. It's mostly water, so when you're looking at herbs, which, for example, let's look at white willow bark, for example. White willow bark is a bark that used to be taken off of trees. People would boil it, and then they would basically drink the tea to remedy pains in the body. Now scientists figured that out, and they go extract the constituents from the bark and make a pill out of it and call it aspirin out of the salicylic acid. That's not salad. That's not lettuce. So what people have to understand, that nature has powerful chemicals in its medicine as well. Think of poison ivy. Think of marijuana, for example. Those aren't medicines that are like, those are more poisonous in a way. But what I'm saying is that they're powerful. And so why would you think that if there's not a destructive plant, that there wouldn't be a powerful healing plant? You see, so don't underestimate the herb. My advice to people is, if it's physiological, go to the herbalist first, before you go to something harder. Try some stuff
Go
at
to the
home.
herbalist first, and it's going to be healthier in the long run.
Yes,
because then you're not dealing with all that whole list of side effects that they put on the commercials and they put on your prescription. So you're safer going to the herbalist first. And just imagine if you go to the herbalist first and you actually come out better. Thank you so much, Montague, for accepting my invite this evening. We are unfortunately out of time. I'm going to have you back on again. I thank you, my viewers, for being with us this evening. Again, you have been watching R&R with Topazz. This is CTNmedia, where we are changing the narrative. collaborative, committed to community, committed to you first, where we bring you what is relevant to you. So again, thank you, Montague. Look forward to having you on again sometime soon. Make sure that you get his number, follow up with him. He's got some good things to offer you that can support you in your physical and mental health. That will support you in your work with your therapist. I'm sure that many therapists out there will support having this additional organic support system to help you to manage what's happening in the mind. Because as you've heard us talking this evening, you know that there is either what's happening with you mentally is causing what you're experiencing in your body, the chronic pain, the inflammation, even the anxiety and depression. And then sometimes it's the reverse. It's because of what's happening in your body that now you're experiencing some of these mental and emotional challenges that you can't seem to shake. Fatigue will cause depression. Fatigue will cause all kinds of problems in your body. Montague mentioned the gut. The gut is such a significant, dominant organ in our body that gets underestimated. Having regular bowel movements is critical to our health. If we are not having regular bowel movements, you should be having a healthy bowel movement within an hour of a healthy meal. If that's not happening, your gut is not functioning properly, and it will begin to affect your blood, the toxins, your immune system, and then subsequently begin to affect your mental health, because you're not going to be mentally and emotionally balanced. So again, I thank you for watching this evening. I pray that this has been a blessing to you. I hope that you walked away. You can walk away and know that you have gotten something rich from tonight's show. This is R&R with Topazz. We're here every Monday night at 7 p.m. bringing you quality, solid information to support you to be able to release and rediscover. So let go of those bad habits, work to get healthier mentally and emotionally. Peace to you. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and feel free to call Mr. Montague at 720-203-9009 or reach out to me at Rediscovery Through Wellness. Good night, everybody. Have a good one. Peace.